Hello, Brubs. We're back with Salem's Children by Mary Leader, a book which is mostly going nowhere, and it's almost over. I think there's three more chapters and a prologue, and nothing really has been solved in this book. But that said, let's go with it. Chapter 26. Rearing up from the borderline between lawn and woods was a venerable oak, which at some time in its history had taken a bolt of lightning that had split a portion of the trunk vertically, like a green stick fracture. Yet it had continued to live. Though its foliage was now so sparse, its top stood out stark and bald against the other trees. Still, leaves sprouted each spring from lower branches, and no one had the heart to suggest that this veteran, which must have presided over Indian councils, be cut down. Now, in the final week before the general rehearsal, a sudden thaw had set in, and strong southwest winds twisted in the arthritic giant unmercifully until his complaints were loud and agonized, and I wondered if euthanasia might not be the kindest course. And while he grumbled, thousands of freshets were bursting from the hillsides, emptying into temporary lakes in the hollows until they overflowed and sent hundreds of miniature cataracts down the slopes, which in turn became torrents, boiling into the rapidly rising river. The sandbars were completely submerged, and Mother Carrier's old house, as expected, succumbed. Before the end of the week, the river was spilling over into other portions of the city. Ward's lumberyard was inundated, and in spite of extensive sandbagging, many basements were flooded, including the one at the community church. Nevertheless, most people were pleased with the warming trend. They seemed little concerned that their town was being washed away, but I remained chill and taught. I should report that last call and that snapshot to Jim Willard, but could I trust him not to relay my complaint to the sheriff? At the bottom of the photo had been the words, "Tell the police and you're all dead." I was losing control. Life was moving around me with prismatic distortion. Whom could I trust? Even Dr. Brune and Dana seemed alien to me. Rowan had become even more distanced. We groped through the week like shadow boxers, with the general rehearsal almost upon us. How could I think? How could I plan a course of action? Afterward, I rationalized perhaps my mind would clear and I could tackle my problem. I saw Greg only briefly at a pageant committee meeting at the church the night before the rehearsal. All during the evening I felt his eyes on me, but when I faced him he turned away. Iris snuggled next to him, and since I arrived late I didn't know if they had come together or separately. After the meeting she took him by the arm and drew him toward me. "You look as if you'd survived the Wisconsin winter," she said. "As for me, I prefer Jamaica. Don't you, Greg?" His answer told me nothing. "My mother loved Jamaica," he replied. "Excuse me, ladies, I have some rewriting to do." She followed me as I went out to my car. "Nothing like giving us the deep freeze," she remarked, clearly annoyed. "What?" "Oh, yes, Greg, I made a pretense of indifference." "Any flooding at your place?" Wishful thinking. She smiled. "No, the house is too high. The basement is filled, so I can't swim. But it's fascinating to watch Peacehaven being shredded bit by bit. I saw Mother Carrier's roof go down river. She opened the door of her Porsche, parked behind my car. How about coming over for a drink?" A drink with her was the last thing I needed. "No, thank you, Iris. I must get home." As I pulled away from the curb, I could see in my rearview mirror that she was still standing next to her car. I hadn't processed very far when I hadn't proceeded very far when I noticed the light in the police headquarters at the city hall. Directly across the street from the newspaper office, On impulse, I swerved my car into the parking lot. I desperately needed someone to talk to. I couldn't wait any longer. If Gareth could trust Jim. He motioned me to a seat while he completed the call, then leaned back in his chair, his hands behind his head, his long legs sticking through the knee hole of his desk. As I began to talk, his old swivel chair creaked forward, and he leaned across the desk, concern deepening in his forehead. I felt thankful for this kind hearted man who listened quietly, giving me his full attention. Suddenly, I knew I was doing the right thing, and I began to pour out my story. I hadn't gotten very far when he stopped me. I'm sorry, Mitty. Working hours are over. What? Would you mind giving me a lift home? Sorry to have been so abrupt, he apologized in my car. Walls have ears. You think your office might be bugged? I found a tap on my phone last week and another in the register behind my desk in October. Don't take me home yet, he said as we neared his house. I want to hear the rest of your story. I headed my car in the direction of the bluff road and took up my narrative again. The attack in the cave, the phone calls, Damon's grandiose plans, and the horrid snapshot. I tried to cover everything, yet all the time I couldn't shake the feeling that I was leaving out something important, but what was it? As I talked, I began to be aware of car lights behind us, making every turn we did. We were following a narrow, winding road in and around the bluffs, their rugged Indian faces showing airily in the beam of our headlights. Those other lights were still following us around the curves, appearing and disappearing with the undulations of the road. Some farmer returning home after a visit to Buckley's, I told myself, but now Jim's hand was groping under the dashboard, then under the front seat. Swearing softly, he brought out a tiny rectangular object that had been fastened by a magnet to the metal under the seat and tossed it out the window. My hands trembled on the wheel. Was that what I think it was? Yes, and I'm a damn fool for not checking. That was an FM monitoring unit. By tuning into vacant FM wavelength, whatever's following us in the vehicle back there heard everything we said. Someone got to your car while you were in my office. Did anyone see you go in? Christopher Columbus. Yeah, I'm going to pass on that. I suppose Iris did. That figures, he said grimly, but that's not a Porsche behind us. She would have had time to alert someone else. There's a crossroad hidden behind a curve. About a quarter of a mile down, take it to the left and douse your lights. Maybe we'll be lucky. I mean, how much did Christopher Columbus actually write? Frank. Whoever was following hesitated, then continued on. By this time, Jim was out of the car and around to my side. Move over, he ordered. I'll drive. This is Salem's Children by Mary Leader. We doubled back, then drove off onto byroads unknown to me, crossing our own path several times until we'd apparently lost our tail. Why would anyone want to bug us? I asked. Because you and I constitute threats to certain individuals' plans here in town. It's only lately that I've been aware of it and have been able to piece some of it together. It started after Iris came. They made no move while your aunt was still alive because they were confident she'd leave her property to charity and they could do what they wanted with it. Damon and Charity are being used, but they don't know it. A number of Peace Haven's most prominent citizens are involved. Tyler Bishop is nominally at the head, although from information I've received, Iris is the liaison with the outside interests, though through an ex-lover. She knows what she's doing, but I'm convinced that in their greed, Tyler and his associates have never inquired too closely into the background of this syndicate. Anyone who blocks them must be eliminated one way or another, and that includes you, Mitty and Dana. You mean this? My stomach felt queasy. This syndicate has underworld connections, not just connection. It is underworld. Do you have any proof? Let's backtrack a little. Remember the night you hid Quentin in that old tunnel between your houses? I gasped audibly. I'm probably the only one in town who knows about that tunnel. I wired it for electricity when Dad still had the hardware store. And you didn't betray us when those dogs were sniffing around the drain? I exclaimed warmly. Quentin's working for an investigative committee appointed by the governor. According to information they have, some underworld figures are planning to establish a resort and condominium development here as a cover for a variety of illegal activities, including drugs and the dogfighting racket. I'm confused. I saw Quentin going to Iris's house one day. I know she was expecting him because I described my visits to the Faulkner home. Jim chuckled. He told me about that. He'd made a date to interrogate her about the dogs and about Mark's death, but she met him as though he made an assignation, either to try to compromise him or she thought he was really on the make. She probably sicked Irv onto Quentin when Nancy was killed. I was struck by the irony. So Quentin is our law and order man, while the pillars of Peacehaven are on the side of the bad guys. Come to think of it, Quentin once mentioned something about dogfights to me. He's death on dogfighters. Thinks his dog was stolen by one, probably to be used as bait for the fighting dogs. They also use cats and kittens, dangle them in mesh bags in front of the dogs, then snatch them away while still alive and let the dogs finish them off the next day. Jupiter, I gasped, gripping the dashboard. What? Darcy's cat. We found his body in the cave, and she's lost other cats since. Without betraying Dana's and Dr. Brune's errand, I told him about our excursion. They must have had a trial run, he conjectured. Quentin thought they would. I'll bet Irv Good went in there to destroy evidence and you surprised him, so he attacked you. Why didn't we think of your cave? It's a perfect place for a dogfight operation, because even if Irv muted his dogs, the others wouldn't be muted and a cave would contain the noise. So that Irv, my head was reeling. You mean he's a trainer. His dogs are professional fighters. He said he uses them for police work. That's his story. He cuts his dog's vocal cords so they won't draw attention. Besides, mute fighting dogs present a terrifying spectacle. Good dogs sell for several grand apiece. Quentin and I couldn't locate his training quarters. We figured they must be on his own farm, but there's absolutely nothing there. I still can't get over Quentin's being a government investigator, I said. That would surprise a lot of people. I think it surprised him, but at least he may have the satisfaction of bagging a sheriff. He grinned slowly as we passed the winding road, warning. How about Jonah? I blurted out my question before I even had it well formulated in my mind. Jonah, he looked puzzled. Oh, you mean the dogs? Well, in most things, Jonah's his father's robot, obeys him blindly and mindlessly, but he's afraid of dogs, all dogs. Yes, I know. I remembered how terrified the boy had been of the big white dog. I didn't mean that. What I meant was, why was Irv Good so anxious to blame Nancy's murder on Quentin? Do you suppose he was trying to protect his own son? That'd be a better motive than what I suspect was his true one. No, as a matter of fact, my wife and I played pinochle with the Goods that night, and Jonah sat and watched this all evening. Well, rule that one out, I thought. Then, as though a flashbulb had popped in my brain, it came to me. What I've been trying to remember. The cave wouldn't be suitable for boarding dogs, as it is now, would it? Privately, I knew Dr. Brune would have seen anything like that going on. No, there's no road leading to it, Jim agreed, which still leaves the question, where does he keep them? Ruby Hobbs told Dana and me last summer that Irv's been renting her barn. Jim slapped his knee. That's it, Mitty. It all fits together. I wouldn't be surprised if Irv leased it before Ruby's brother died. A few days before that, old man Hobbs had an argument with Lester Jacobs down at the Hobbs, down at the feed store. Lester was slightly plastered that day, as usual, and he began to josh old Hobbs about what a fire trap of a barn he had. Hobbs got mad and told him that the barn was more valuable than anyone knew. I think that's how the rumor about Hobbs burying money in the barn got around. Say, he drawled, we're less than a mile from there now. I'd like to check something. Are you game? I wasn't sure my car was as we bounced, lights out, over the choppy, axle grinding tractor path leading to the barnyard. Safer than taking the main drive, he explained, easing through one last chuck hole before stopping behind a windbreak of spruces. We sprinted across to the barn on the side away from the house. An owl hooted an alert, but the groans of the old windmill helped cover our approach. The door to the cow barn was boarded up, but as Jim leaned against it to listen, one of the boards slipped out of place and would have fallen if he hadn't caught it and forced in a loose nail. Jim caught my arm. There it was, sniffing, then a scratching on the other side. But now my ears picked up another sound, the hum of an engine coming along the main farm drive. We reached the shelter of the spruces just as the lights of a truck turned a bend and flooded the barnyard. Irv Good got out carrying something squirming in a bag and went up the ramp to the granary floor. Jim pulled me down on the half-frozen ground. I don't think he saw us, he whispered. As I lay there, my heart pounding against the ground, the sheriff opened the padlock and pushed aside the big door. A dog sprang for him. He cursed it and kicked it to one side as he entered. We could hear his boots echoing on the steps from the loft to the floor below. An unearthly screech sounded faintly through the thick fieldstone walls. Then silence. After a long while, he returned, still carrying the now limp sack, climbed into the truck, and drove away. Oh, I thought the chapter was over. He must have one dog on guard duty and the rest in cages, Jim remarked as we picked our way back over the tractor lane. Where the hell's my brush? Get over here. Do some work, you sons of a bitch. What was that terrible sound? I asked, shivering. Probably a cat, but it doesn't make sense. He wasn't in there long enough to be training his dogs. If my theory is right, I imagine old Irv was pretty shaken when he found the children's bodies. I think the poor kids wandered in there. There are all kinds of stories about buried money and stuff, and were attacked by the guard dog. Irv found them, but since he couldn't afford to have them connected with his operation, he carved those symbols on them, then moved the bodies. I was too shocked to get a word in before Jim smashed his fist on the steering wheel. No wonder Quentin's the fall guy. I'll bet all our meetings have been bugged. I'll drive over to Madison tonight to see him. We're going to have to act fast. Quentin can get a detachment of state police and a warrant to search the barn tomorrow night during rehearsal. Will Irv be there? Yes, he plays Sheriff George Corwin, who confiscated the witches' property and left their children to beg in the streets. Typecasting, I added with a shaky laugh. It was easy to picture Irv Good turning orphans into the street, and then I was seeing him standing over a dying white dog, while a black one struggled at the end of a rope. Attack my dog without warning, he was saying. My dog, what was trained in the London bear pits. Jim switched on the lights when we reached the county road, bringing me back to the present. I leaned against the seat, thinking about tomorrow. The Peacehaven Council had declared a holiday as a kickoff to engender enthusiasm and publicity. The rehearsal was to be held in the oversized council chamber at City Hall that doubled as an auditorium. Allison would be there. She was in another remission and was determined to continue in the part of Rebecca Nurse. Her improvement was little short of a miracle, but in contrast, to this new burst of energy on Allison's part. Dana seemed to be losing her old vitality. I remembered Dana kneeling before her altar, holding out the poppet of Allison with the ugly mark spreading above her left breast. Wake up, Mitty, Jim said, turning off the ignition. You look so relaxed just now, I hated to disturb you, but I'd better head home pretty quick. My wife will be wondering what happened to me, and I have to get to Madison before morning. I wasn't sleeping, I told him. I could have dropped you off at your house. Not a chance. I always escort ladies to their door, he said gallantly. With my long legs, I'll be home in less than 5 minutes. An apprehensive note came into his voice. Strange thing, I just saw Irv's truck on the way down from your house. He must have beaten us here. Wonder what he wanted. The answer lay on my doorstep in a bloodied sack, a mangled heap of gray fur that had once been Phantom. So that was what had screamed in the barn. Irv must have thought he'd gotten my cat, but Loki had been locked in the house. Whoever spied on Jim and me must have relayed the information to Irv, and this was his way of telling me to clear out. As I swayed dizzily against the wall of the house, there was a loud crack. Aged fibers had given away, and with a woodsy shriek, the ancient oak came crashing down like a movie clapstick, setting the cameras in motion for action, for which there would be no retakes. All right, let's see how long the next chapter is. Jesus Christ. 43, so that's what, 18 pages? All right, let's do it. I gotta get this book over. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Book's a piece of garbage. Chapter 27. If this thing will stay on there. Come on, bastard, let me read. Chapter 27. Mary Esty, how can you afflict these children so and not repent? The judge peered down at me, his face severe below the wig that fringed his black skullcap. She chokes me. Oh, she chokes me because I want to sign in the black book. Mercy Lewis rolled at my feet. Her own groping fingers had produced the red blotches on her neck. The other girls mimicked her, chanting a scurrilous litany until Anne Putnam suddenly sprang up and pointed to the beams overhead. There's her spectral shape sitting there with a fat green snake winding round her wrist. See how it sucks her thumb? Oh, now it's changed into a little yellow bird. Mary Esty, come down from there and stop afflicting me. Come down, her companions chorused. Their elders stared in fascination, fancying they saw my shape and a snake and a bird among the empty trusses. 'Tis some strange delusion has struck the child, I faltered. I know not aught. Anne fell to the ground, shrieking that nails and pins were being driven into her, and indeed I watched wounds erupt from her fair skin. My heart skipped a beat, then raced wildly as the others began to develop similar symptoms. It couldn't be so, and yet 'twas. Anne was not the sly minx Mercy Lewis was, until I believed her tortures genuine. The judge's eyes bored into me, raking my soul. How can you say you know nothing when you see these tormented? Would you have me accuse myself? Yes, if you be guilty. How far have you complied with Satan, whereby he takes this advantage against you? Sir, I never complied, but prayed against him all my days. What would you have me do? I pleaded. Searching his face for some remnant of the affection he once bore me. But there was none. Confess if you be guilty, he thundered. A flux of love, hurt, and fear welled in my throat, and I was forced to clear it. At once the girls began to clear their throats. My hands went to my mouth. Theirs did likewise. What could I do against such conspiracy? An ancient crone tottered towards the bench. Margaret Reddington, my neighbor, whom I have cured of the king's evil, and to whom I had brought fresh meat when she had none. Come February, she began in a quavery voice, I was at Goodman Etsty's, and talking with his wife about an infirmity I had, and presently after I fell into a most solemn condition, and some time later I was exceeding ill. And that night Goody Esty appeared to me, and proffered me a piece of fresh meat, and I told her 'twas not fit for the dogs, and I would have none of it, and then she vanished away. My heart quailed. How could the woman lie so? She had snatched at the meat, good meat, and wolfed it before her sister returned home, so she wouldn't have to share it. Ironically, I'd always suspected her of being a witch. Now, Samuel Smith took the stand, uncommon sober, but reeking of stale urine and vomit. I was one night at the house of Isaac Estick of Topsfield, he said, nervously, drawing his hand over hair slick with bear grease. And I was, as far as I know, too rude in discourse, and and the what? And as I was, as far as I know, too rude in discourse, and the above Estick's wife said to me that I might rue it hereafter. And as I was going home that night, about a quarter of a mile from the said Eastick's home by a stone wall, I received a little blow on my shoulder with I know not what, and the stone wall rattled very much, which affrighted me. My horse also was affrighted very much, but I cannot give the reason of it. The old tale again, born in its cups. Mary Esty, what have you to say to this? The judge asked. Oh, Will, how can you believe such lies? I will say it. I am clear of this sin, I declared aloud. He gabbled down the noise. Of what sin? He demanded. Of witchcraft. Stroking his chin as though unsure of himself, he turned to the witnesses. Are you certain this is the woman? The girls promptly began to bark and bleat and mew. Some crawled around on all fours. Mercy Lewis crept forward and rolled at my feet. I clenched my hands to suppress a desire to slap her. She reared on her haunches and clenched her hands. Instinctively, I unclenched mine, whereupon she relaxed hers. Judge Stoughton had not failed to notice. Look, now your hands are open. Hers are open. Indeed, so it is with children who play Simon Says, I retorted, which caused Mary Warren and Betty Hubbard to hold their breaths until their faces purpled, and Ann Putnam cried out, Oh, Goody Esty, you are the woman. The strain of the day had taken its toll, and I lowered my head to drive away the faintness that threatened to engulf me. So too did the heads of the young girls droop, then slowly twist nearly halfway around. The elder Ann Putnam pushed them aside and ran toward me. Put up her head, she cried, for while her head is down, the necks of these be broken. As the sheriff jerked my head upright, the girls straightened theirs. 'Tis she, the elder Ann continued, who with her sister Rebecca murdered my babies while they were yet in the cradle. Forsooth, some yet in the womb, and eke my sister's babes, so that she died of grief. Night after night these butchered innocents come to me in their winding sheets and beg me to avenge them. Stoughton's eyes bored into me. And thou sayest this is not witchcraft, Mary? He used my first name in the old form of speech, yet he gave no other sign of recognition. 'Tis an evil spirit. I conceded. I conceded, trying not to flinch, as a frenzied Sarah Bibber dug her sharp nails into my scalp. But whether it be witchcraft, I do not know. That there was something diabolic afoot, I did not doubt. She wanted us to sign the devil's book, they chorused. She flew in my window at night and sat on my bed with the book. Abigail Williams cried out. Betty Paris, the minister's daughter, prowled on all fours, yowling like a cat in heat. Let the accused touch the afflicted, so she may draw her devils back into herself, the judge ordered. One by one, the girls were brought to me, and Sheriff Corwin forced me to lay my hands on them. As I touched the soft flesh, each victim ceased her struggles and let herself be led away quietly. It took 3 men to bring Betty Paris to me, spitting and scratching, a great ball swelling in her throat. Stoughton went livid. Woman, withdraw all thy devils, he roared. Wouldst thou slay this child before our eyes? I know not of devils, I protested. I have no power to stop this. I fear for the child, as do you. Betty pushed her ash-blonde hair away from her eyes. Nay, 'tis not Goody Esty afflicts me. 'Tis the demons I see in all of ye. O ye are sore possessed. Cut, Lucian hurried forward, script in hand. Lucy, those weren't your lines. Where'd you get them? Lucy stood trembling, her lips white and her eyes downcast. Behind the thick lenses, I don't know, she murmured. I'll try to do it right the next time. Well, we've been going at it pretty hard, he relented. Take 5, everyone. Good work, girls. They drifted off toward the refreshment tables, loaded with confections from nearly every oven in Peacehaven. You've trained the girls well, Mitty, Lucian said. Still have to use your scripts. Oh, let me read that again. You've trained the girls well, Mitty, Lucian said, and you adults are coming along too, even though you still have to use your scripts. Except for Mitty and Greg, he turned to Elspeth. Your characterization of Sarah Bibber is excellent, but don't be so realistic. We don't want Mitty torn to pieces before the pageant. And Charity, you've got to project more for Mistress Ann Putnam. One thing puzzles me, though, he continued, turning to Greg. Why did you switch to the second person singular when you addressed Mary at the last? I thought you said, according to your research, the you form was fairly universal by 1692 instead of the thou. Did you change the script? I wasn't aware I was doing it, Greg replied. Homer Red came up, stuffing his mouth with Blitz Tort. You were too sober as Samuel Smith, Homer, Lucian told him. Don't you think he might have taken a belt or so to fortify himself? Like you do when you go to the dentist, the farmer reddened. Oh, and you, Irv, pick up your cues faster. Lay Mitty's hands on the girls immediately. You ought to know how a sheriff acts. As for you, Aunt Jenny, you're playing Goody Reddington too young. She was at least 70. Sheer flattery. He knew damn well Aunt Jenny was over 80. The rehearsal had been going on since noon. Lucian had urged us to wear costumes, even at rehearsal, to help us get into our roles. I'd had a hard time to keep from staring at Greg. He was attired exactly as Stoughton had been in my dream. He was with maroon robe, black skull cap, and linen and lace neckpiece. You've done a superb job, Mitty, he said. I want to apologize for the way I acted at Christmas. You're not scuttling the pageant. You're making it with your portrayal of Mary Esty. You were uncommonly convincing yourself, Greg, I countered, keeping my tone cool, though my heart pounded and I hid my shaking hands in the folds of my long, dark green gown. Where did you get your costume? It looks so authentic. I had it copied from Stoughton's portrait in the Harvard archives, where I've been working the last 2 months. I thought you were in Jamaica. Jamaica? He was puzzled. I haven't been there since I was a little boy. No, to tell you the truth, you'd made me question some of my theories, and I went back for additional research. I turned my head to hide my relief. I have something for you. I found an article on Salem that Aunt Bo started and apparently never finished. It gives a new light on the whole subject. Read it. You might want to make some changes in the pageant. He put the copies I'd made into his pocket, but the old wariness came into his eyes. I added quickly, "You've done a clever job of weaving in the actual trial testimony. When I speak my lines, I feel little shivers to think I'm saying the same words Mary Esty did 3 centuries ago, and you play a hanging judge with a vengeance. I want to show Stoughton as he was, bigoted, cruel, and self-righteous. He didn't think that of himself. You have to believe his lines in order to make the audience believe you. You really can't accept your ancestor for what he was, can you? The spurt of anger passed. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. What do you think was Stoughton's motive?" I think it's because he was a dick. Fear, Greg. Stark fear. Iris wedged herself between us, interlacing her fingers with his. "Greg, darling, can we go over our scene together? I want to be sure I have my part right." "Oh, you'll do fine, Iris," he assured her. "I was just about to offer Mitty some refreshment. Would you join us?" "Why don't you two go ahead?" I suggested. "I'm not hungry. And one witch at a time is enough for you, Greg." Iris tugged at his arm. Reluctantly, I hoped. He followed her to the table. I walked over to Darcy and Marion, who were going over their lines in the corner. "Can you rest even for a minute?" I asked them. "Oh, I could," Darcy drawled. "But Marion's nervous about the scene where he gets pressed to death." "What's so hard about that?" I asked. "All you have to do is moan and cry out, 'More rocks, more rocks.'" But some of the guys might get carried away, he worried. No wonder. After the harassment he'd suffered at the hands of the town bullies. "I'll speak to Lucy, and we ought to have rocks made of foam, rubber, or paper mache. Relax. The way we're going today, we won't get to the last act." Darcy grabbed my arm. "Well, glory be, there's Allison." Ward and Bruce were helping Allison with her coat. She'd insisted she felt well enough to be at the rehearsal. "I hope I'm not late," she said now. "Ward made me rest all morning." Her eyes sparkled, and it was hard to believe her appearance of health was only a reprieve, not a pardon. "We put your big scene off until later," I reassured her. Lucian climbed onto the stage and blew his whistle. "Since we're running a little late," he announced, "we won't try the third act today. I'd planned to move us all up to Bishop's Bluff for the gallows scene, since the ground's frozen again, but there's not going to be time. Lucy, take it again from the second scene where you accuse Tituba of having bewitched you." "You direct, Mitty. I have to do Paris. Damon," he called to the doctor, who was talking to Tyler Bishop, "you're in this, so get on up here." "Good thing Lucian has some sense," Ward growled in my ear. "I'd never have let Allison go up on that bluff tonight." Lucy dragged her feet up the steps to the stage and lay down across the 3 chairs that were a makeshift bed. She was ominously white, but Lucian seemed not to notice. She began to moan and gnaw at the blanket which had been thrown over her, then suddenly stopped. "Please, Daddy," she whimpered, "I don't want to do this part again today. Can we do something else?" "Nonsense! The scene needs work," Lucian objected. Lucy put aside her glasses and resumed her position. "Betty, child," Lucian gave his line, "what ails thee?" Her convulsions increased until those gathered around her had to hold her down on the bed. "Tell us, Betty, in the name of Almighty God," he commanded. "Don't say that name," she shrieked, her hands over her ears. "I can't bear it." She fell back in a swoon, and Andy Cloyce, as Dr. Griggs took hold of her wrist. "Her pulse is weak and rapid," he said. "Dangerous for a child of her delicate nature. Bleeding would be of no avail. This is not a natural order." or disorder. The evil hand is upon her. Humph! Damon, who played the irascible Thomas Putnam, sniffed. Just as my wife said, an evil spirit walks among us. Tell us, Miss Betty, who had done this thing? Let me get this damn book. There we go. Who done this thing? Come on, focus. There we go. This was Lucy's cue to sit up, point to Rhoda Jackson, crouching at the foot of the bed, and cry out, Tituba, oh, Tituba. Instead, she wailed, Iris, oh, Iris. Iris, who was clinging to Greg's arm, went rigid as curious eyes turned to her, but she quickly regained her composure. The child's right, Lucian. She isn't well. She needs rest. Her father glared at her. I don't know what's gotten into you, Lucy. Apologize at once. She slid down from the platform and dragged toward Iris, her head drooping. A shiver went through her as the woman took her hand. I'm sorry, Iris, she murmured. Okay, everyone, Lucian barked. We'll try the last act. As we were taking our positions, the outside door banged and Dana came hobbling into the auditorium, wisps of hair straying about her face. Carriot's gone. Gone! Sheriff Good took command at once. All officers and reserves are immediately ordered to duty. He turned to Dana. All right, what happened? And none of your idiot lies, he added menacingly. Dana leaned warily against the refreshment table. Carrie wanted to go out, so I bundled her up and put her out in her play yard to romp with her dog while I fixed supper. Then I heard the dog yowling and went to see what was the matter. Carrie was gone, and the dog was trying to jump out. She handed the sheriff a torn piece of brown corduroy. I found this on the ground outside the fence. There were huge footprints in the frost. Maybe your dog would track her, Jim Willard suggested. She shook her head. Just as I was getting into my car to come down here, I saw him clear the fence and dash off into the woods. I tried to call him back, but he was gone. Someone spoke up. This is a Sabbath night for the coven when they make sacrifices. Jim, Good barked at Willard. Take a posse over to the witch farm and round them up. I'll need a warrant, Jim objected. The sheriff's face flushed. You fool around getting a warrant when they got a child in their hands? You don't know that. Homer Red shook his fist in Jim's face. You goddamn half-ass cop. No wonder kids get murdered around here. He sprang up on the stage. Who'll follow me? We'll round him up. Okay, I'm deputizing you, Homer, Irv told him. You too, Scotty. Jim, get on the radio and call in the regular deputies. And then you and Caleb, go get those two-way radios out of your office. A vision of Jonah Good darting into the woods came into my mind. Had he been the one all along, but Jim had accounted for him on Halloween. Still, he might have had time after the Willards had gone home that night. Jim, I grabbed his sleeves as he passed below the stage. The Hobbs farm. Then in a whisper, is Quentin coming? I'm giving orders, Irv barked. I'll check the Hobbs farm. I'll check the Hobbs farm. No, you don't, Doc, he directed at Damon, who had said something in a low voice. I want you to stay right where we can find you. While Irv had his head turned, Jim gave him a thumbs-up sign. So Quentin would be there, but would Jonah take her to the farm? The eerie notes of an Indian chant sounded above the hubbub. Dana had slumped to the floor and was swaying back and forth, chanting a prayer to Mauna? What's she doing? Edna asked in a loud whisper. Do you suppose she's talking in tongues? Praying to her heathen gods, most likely, Gladys sniffed. That's Winnebago, I said. Mauna is their name for the creator, and Han Ninklara was his fair-skinned son, who taught them wisdom and how to make medicine. I'm sure that's not one of Jehovah's tongues, Gladys retorted. Lucian tells me my tongue sounds like Hebrew, God's own language. You wouldn't know Hebrew from Winnebago, Aunt Jenny snapped. You don't even know what you're saying, I bet. Only God knows that, Gladys said sanctimoniously. Or the devil, the old woman shot back. Really, mother. Dana dropped her head on her breast in an attitude of dejection. I can't see, she moaned. My powers are spent. I cannot see her. The world around me was breaking up into bits and pieces, like garbled film clips. Mothers were rounding up their younger children, afraid they too might disappear. The red baby was crying. Please, I cried, somebody find my child. Allison's arms encircled my waist. They'll find her. Mitty, I know they will. She tried to comfort me. Don't you worry. Good heavens. What's she doing? Rowan was prancing around the stage, riding an invisible horse. Giddy up, old Robin Dobbin. Giddy up, in a coarse, heavy voice that changed to a loud whinny, as though horse and rider were one. Up with ye spavined nag, horse and haddock. She leaped onto one of the chairs in Lucy's makeshift bed. The other girls crowded in close as everyone turned to watch. Rowan went through the motions of dismounting and slapping the horse on the rump to send him away, then turned slowly around to us, glassy-eyed and flushed. A shiver ran through the crowd as her eyes riveted on something in the back of the room. I followed her gaze to yellow-green eyes. Iris made a slight movement of her hand. Rowan fell forward, her tongue protruding until she gagged. One after the other, the girls joined in. Sissy Osborne was bleeding like a goat. Linda beat her head upon the floor. Dorcas Red stood aloof at first, but when Debbie and Jessica pulled her down, she too was caught up in the frenzy. All the tricks I'd taught them were being played in deadly earnest now. Iris nodded her head slightly. Instantly, Rowan threw herself at Dana's feet. Remove your spell, my daughter pleaded. Let us be. She reached up and caught at Dana's outstretched hands, followed by the other girls, one by one, ceasing their cries the moment they touched her. Woman, what have you to say? Lucian demanded. I love Carrie, Dana protested. I would protect her with my life. Listen, everyone, please, Allison pleaded. Dana wouldn't. Stay out of this, Damon snapped at her. Don't you tell me what to do, she lashed out. Dana's cured me, which is more than you did. She laid her hands upon me and drew the poison from my body. I'm healed. Ward doesn't believe that yet, but he will. As Ward tried to draw Allison away, Sissy Osborne bounded forward. Oh, goody nurse, 'tis you who've been sitting on my bed at night. She dug her hands into the chignon at the nape of Allison's neck. Ward pushed Sissy away, lifted Allison, and strode out. God help us, Lucian cried. The evil is upon us. Satan's emissaries lurk among us, and we must discover them. Iris knows, Sissy cried out. The devil showed her his black book. She said so. Lucian turned to her. Is that true, Iris? She bowed her head, the lovely penitent to all eyes but mine. The devil knew I was weak, she confessed in a soft voice. He asked me to sign his book and showed me the names of those who had already done so. I was tempted, but I stalled. Each time he returned, the list had grown, and I knew I couldn't hold out much longer. That is when I went to you for help, Lucian. You brought me to Christ, and Satan came no more, she sighed. But perhaps I did wrong to shield those whose names were in the book. God bless you, sister, Lucian soothed her. He would want you to unmask those who covenant with Satan. Satan. We were balanced on two spheres of time, the 17th century and the 20th. How could these people revert to the error of Salem when their own ancestors had died of it? These weren't the people I'd known. Even their speech was unnatural. The names, Lucian prodded. Must I? Iris seemed near fainting. For the sake of the innocent, he urged. She swayed dizzily. Dana, she murmured. She was the first. I knew it, Homer bawled. Her and her fancy potions. Now the doc says Esther can't have any more kids. So I won't ever have a son, and I know Dana had a hand in that somehow. Hush, Homer. His wife tried to quiet him. Shut up, woman. Or are you in league with her? And there was old Mrs. Putiator. Aunt Jenny's Aunt Jenny, impossible. I could see their astonishment. Gladys paled. I beg you not to take that Indian woman's medicines, mother. I begged you, that is. Goodness knows what was in them, Muriel put in. You're cowards, both of you, the old woman wailed. Only afraid for your own skins. Wish I'd aborted the both of you. Her face puckered, and tears began running down her cheeks as she thumped with her cane toward the door. Stop that woman, arrest her, God. Or good, shouted to Jim, who had returned with the radios. On what charge? Jim asked simply. He won't help Irv, Iris cried. He's one too. A shudder ran through the crowd. Gentle Jim Willard? Jessica confronted her father. Is that why you wouldn't let me go to the patch this week? Daddy, were you afraid Iris would tell on you? Jim's face went gray. Irv Good ripped the deputy badge from his coat, then motioned to another deputy to guard him and Aunt Jenny, who had already been taken into custody by her son-in-law. And Darcy is another. Iris had warmed to her mission. She sacrifices her cats to her gods. That's why she has so few left. You goddamn lying bitch, Darcy raged. You heard her curse me, Iris said meekly. Anyone else? Lucian asked. I didn't see all the names, and one is too embarrassing for me to mention. God will defend you, Lucian assured her gently. He tried to rape me. Who was he? Elspeth echoed, a universal curiosity. Iris bit her lip. Quentin Jackson, she whispered. The sheriff's eyes lit. Anyone else? Lucian asked. No. Yes, I almost forgot. He pretends to be holy, but he conjures up demons in caves. Dr. Martin Brune. She waited for the sensation her last announcement had made to die down. And there was yet another, the one who caused her cousin to drown. I knew it all the time. She killed my junior, Elspeth. Osborne came menacingly toward me. And maybe she killed her baby, she screeched. After all, she can have plenty more by screwing the devil. Elspeth, Melvin remonstrated. My wife hasn't been herself, he apologized, trying to draw her away. They closed in on me, their excitement mounting. I put my arm around Dana as much for support as to help her. They're not going to find Cariad, I despaired. They're going to stay here and hunt witches. I plucked at Greg's sleeve. You're a newspaperman, Greg. You can't believe these wild accusations. They've gone crazy. They don't even care about my baby. He didn't answer, merely stood with his hands gripping the lectern, tortured eyes staring off into space. Greg, I asked uncertainly, then, Will. He saw me for the first time. You are right for once, Mary Esty. We must be certain justice is done. The room hushed as his gavel crashed down on the stand. Let the Indian woman be examined in private for the devil's mark, he declared. Why in private? Iris asked contemptuously. Her question triggered a response in Rowan, who sprang at Dana and ripped the blouse from her shoulders. A shock wave ran through the hall. Just above Dana's left breast was a black mole. The devil's tit! Elspeth shrieked. Immediately the girls screamed that Dana was tormenting them again. And one by one they touched her. Sissy raked her nails across the mole, leaving angry red welts on either side. Drops of blood slowly gathered on Dana's breast. So this was the price of Allison's cure. She's the woman who made me wreck my car, Lester Jacobs exclaimed, and I saw her fly right off into the trees. Yeah, and she stopped my tractor dead, Homer declared. Lucian was kneeling center stage. His hands were clasped, his eyes on the ceiling, his lips moving in prayer. He's a saint, someone whispered. The Lord has spoken to me, he cried out suddenly. While the search goes on, the rest of us must seek him in a high place to pray for the safety of the child and for those lost souls. We'll light a bonfire on Bishop's Bluff to be a beacon for the searchers. There we will wait until the child is found. We will take the accused with us and pray for their deliverance from Satan. At least he got them going, I thought thankfully, as the hall cleared. The small children and the elderly were whisked home. I grabbed my cape from its hook and wrapped it high around my chin, hoping to join the hunt. But Damon caught my arm. You too submit, he said. I looked back. Greg still stood by the lectern, staring at the gavel in his hand. Slowly he laid it down and went for his coat. Then, as if an afterthought, he returned to the lectern, picked up the gavel, and stuffed it in his coat pocket. As Damon steered me through the door with the others, Greg, or was it Will, followed us out into the night. That's going to be it for now. What a boring book, honestly. Not badly written, but it just doesn't go anywhere, and it doesn't do anything. Oh well, that's all.